afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Monica Yazganian, and I am the CEO and co-founder of ToeFX Inc. In North America alone, some 30 to 50 million people suffer from onychomycosis or toenail fungus right now. During 2020's clinical trial that ToeFX ran, we met so many amazing patients. Roger was not one of them, but both his toe and his misery are totally typical. Toenail fungus is one of the most stubborn and prevalent infections in humans, but you may have never seen it because people who suffer from it are often so ashamed of their feet that they spend a lifetime hiding them. To quote one of our patients, "It is very difficult for someone not suffering from fungus to understand the psychological damage. One of the biggest fears is that I may be contagious. I almost never went barefoot my whole life because of fears that I may be harming my family." This is a detailed summary of the competition, primarily terbinafine, efinaconazole, and lasers. To summarize briefly, between harmful side effects, low cure rates of only 15 to 18%, and high cost, there is really no good cure for toenail fungus right now. And ToeFX wants to change that. We have a vision to create the end-to-end standard of care for the treatment of toenail fungus. As scientists, we at ToeFX are passionate about developing something that really works. We created ClearToe Therapy technology for professional clinicians to clear up yellow, crumbling nails in 6 to 10 treatments. Our products are proudly made in Canada, and here is what they look like. On the left is the ClearToe Serum single-dose disposable applicator. In the middle is the ClearToe Therapy LED-based light. On the right, you can see the product in action at a foot clinic. Here's how you apply the treatment. The clinician paints light-sensitive ClearToe serum onto the patient's infected toenails. You wait for the serum to penetrate into the nail, and then you place the patient's foot under the custom-designed ClearToe Therapy Light for 15 minutes. How does it work? ClearToe serum is an antifungal, non-toxic formula that penetrates the nail to act on the nail bed, which is where the fungus resides. When the light source shines on a photosensitive molecule, the molecule absorbs light. It stimulates production of reactive oxygen species, or ROS, which have cytotoxic effects on the fungus. These species are very short-lived, and the processes cease immediately when you switch the light off. We ran a Health Canada authorized clinical trial in 2020, which showed that 76% of the fungal nails studied were substantially or totally cleared within 6 months. This is a non-invasive treatment with no side effects. Now let me show you a quick case study. This patient had a severe case of toenail fungus, as you can see from the yellow buildup on the nail on the left. We used digital image analysis to quantify the spread of the fungal infection. You can see that in March, the nail was 80% covered by fungus. By June, it was starting to clear up to about 30%, and by the study's end, the nail is nice and clear with no clinical diagnosis of fungus. This patient had been struggling for years and is so happy with the results. Let's talk about regulatory and IP. ToeFX is approved by Health Canada, certified under MDSAP, and owns 100% of its IP, with a PCT filed in 2018. We filed for national phase entry in several jurisdictions in 2020, and we expect to hear from the US Patent Office next year. A quick word on the ToeFX team. We work with regulatory consultants, engineers, and amazing advisors here at Innovation Factory. The core team is myself and my co-founder, formulation chemist, Dr. Irit Van Ham, formerly of Teva Pharmaceuticals, orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Alexander Rabinovich, and our national sales manager, Karel Rive-Roy, who brings 11 years of medical device sales experience. Onychomycosis therapies have grown to be a $4.7 billion market. This is a global problem, and our next step is to introduce ToeFX to the United States. If we win the Synapse competition, we will use the funds toward FDA approval. ToeFX employs a printer and ink model. where the light source is sold relatively inexpensively and ClearToe serum formulation is a source of recurring revenue. There are 50,000 foot care practitioners in North America alone, representing a total addressable market of 127 million for the light source and potential annual recurring revenue of 114 million for the serum. In 2018 alone, sales of Jublia brand efinaconazole were over $250 million. So we believe this represents a big opportunity. ToeFX began sales to foot clinics in late 2020, and the response has been swift. In our first quarter, we have already sold to 30 podiatry clinics and foot care nurses across Canada, from BC to Newfoundland. Our long-term vision is to develop a B2C product that will allow patients to treat their feet at home. This is also one of our patients. Clinicians and patients love ToeFX because they are actually seeing results with this treatment. Our patients say that the difference has increased their confidence to go out with sandals, to walk around without socks, or simply to stop living in fear of infecting their families. Thank you so much for your attention. If you'd like to know more about ToeFX, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to me directly through our website or any way that works for you. Thank you.
Great presentation, Monica. Thank you so much. We have some questions for you from our judges, and we'll go around and keep asking questions in a circle. So maybe we'll start off with John. If you could take yourself off mute and maybe ask the first question, that'd be great.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Monica. Great presentation. You certainly covered all of, or certainly all of the bases. I wondered a question that you probably haven't heard before, or at least I hope not. I noticed at the very early slides you had the product is indicated for mild to severe. And that's something that I'm not used to seeing. You usually see mild to moderate or moderate to severe. So I guess my question is, how does that compare, having the full breadth, compare to the competitive set? Are they also mild to severe, or are they a little closer to the traditional, one or two of the three?
That's actually a wonderful question, and you're right, we've never heard it before phrased that way. So I'd love to tell you about it. So when we were setting up our clinical trial, we were looking what other people did, what other remedies have done, and how they set up their trials. And most people, or most companies, have recruited mild patients, mild to moderate patients, as much as they can, which makes sense because when you get severe cases, there can be comorbidities and other complications that you can't control. Now, when we were recruiting, we had the same intent, which was to recruit mild to moderate, hopefully get a good result, and then move on to severe. And what happened with us is, when we were recruiting, it was March 2020, which is exactly when COVID hit. So we had to take the patients that came in the door or who had already been recruited. We did not actually get to exercise the kind of selectivity that we wanted. It was either that or abandon the trial. As it happened, it kind of worked out for us because we were seeing patients with very severe cases having an excellent response. As it happened, just because most people will start to seek an intervention once it gets really severe, the majority of the patients we treated were severe, and we were able to see great results, and we were really happy with that.
Great. So you kind of actually touched on another question in your answer there, which is the sort of the trigger for patients to finally say, okay, enough is enough, I'm going to go see my doctor about this. Is there any data to suggest that it has to become severe before they do that? And sort of the knock-on question to that is, how are the patients, and I'm thinking mostly in the US here, but let's assume in Canada it's covered. If it's not, let us know. But how are the patients planning to, or how do you think the patients will pay for it in the US? Is it going to be covered under Medicare, Medicaid, or to what degree have you unsolved or solved that mystery?
Sure. I'll do your questions, or I'll answer in order. So the first one was about severity, and is there evidence that patients only seek an intervention once it gets severe? So I think it's also a wonderful question because it allows me to talk about our thoughts into the patient journey. We think that patients will get to a foot clinic, which is our current target market, once things are quite severe. That's when you start seeking really specialized treatment. But when patients are quite mild, you notice almost right away that there's some discoloration or some problem with your toenails. Patients definitely want something, and where they'll usually go is Google. They'll go to Google, they'll go to Amazon, they'll start looking for home remedy treatments. So our understanding of the patient journey is you start on Google, Amazon, your local pharmacy, you may progress to your family doctor, and you'll end up with specialized care. Now we're starting our launch with the specialized care simply because those clinicians really understand. But where we want to go is backwards in the patient journey and get them a product that they can use at home. That's in our future, and that's where I think that this product rightfully belongs. So hopefully that answers your first question. The second question about how patients pay in the US, our research indicates it's identical to what it is in Canada, which is patients will pay out of pocket. And we believe that is from direct interviews with foot care clinics in the United States, where this is not covered by insurance, similar to laser treatments, which are offered right now. So yes, similar to Canada, that's the experience we're seeing right now. There is insurance available in Canada for chiropody or podiatry services of anywhere from $500 to $1,000, depending on the insurance plan. And we are finding our clinics are recommending to patients that they can use that coverage to cover chiropody services, which do cover our treatment. We expect it will be similar in the US.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe moving to Alex,
Yep.
do you have some questions?
Yes, thank you very much, Jennifer. So first of all, great presentation, really well done, very well put together.
Thank you.
And it's very, very happy to see that you've got a robust IP strategy set up already. But as you are moving on to the more direct-to-consumer approach, the one risk that I would have some concern about is where you're going to a professional clinician. You're in a situation where if there is something other than fungus that requires a more urgent treatment, the clinician is there to be able to make that diagnosis to say, no, this isn't fungus, this is some other thing. Whereas if you have people who are essentially self-medicating, there may be a risk that they, the Dr. Google problem, and they're, taking something that is not actually the right medication because they've misdiagnosed their condition. Is there a procedure that you've got in place for something like that? Is it going to be a prescription required, or how are you dealing with that sort of a risk?
As fungus is hard to cure, it's also really, really hard to diagnose. So there's a huge diagnostics problem right now, whether you're a professional clinician or whether you're treating from home. And this, I didn't have time to get into it in the presentation, but that's absolutely something that we want to focus on as well. Whether through a PCR-based diagnosis, which is something that we're considering working on right now. We've actually started exploring that possibility. Through sort of a home care kit where you can get not a fantastic diagnosis, but you can get something that we would give to clinicians to do on-the-spot diagnosis. And finally, an AI-based diagnosis just from visual inspection of the nail. I think that has great potential. It's something that would require a lot of data. But I think you're absolutely right. We're telling clinicians right now, please go and get a diagnosis first before you do anything else, because we already know that fungus can be confused with psoriasis. It's the most common misdiagnosis. We get our patients coming in saying, please let me into the trial, and they have to be screened, and they don't have fungus necessarily. So it is super important. And for a home care treatment, we would have to find something to address that. And we have a few solutions kind of in the works already.
Great. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, that was fine. That was, yeah, the only other observation I would add there is, and this is more of an observation than a question, is when you have the clinicians who are making an initial prescription. So if you look at your direct-to-consumer model may still be a prescription-based direct-to-consumer model, there's a bit of a shield there in that there is an intervening expert who is making the diagnosis and making the recommendation, as opposed to you're simply selling a product which may lead to something not working. Having that intervening expert may create a bit more of a liability shield. even if you're still selling it at the drugstore, but you have to get the prescription to go and buy it at the drugstore.
Alex, I think it's wise counsel, and it's something that we're considering because we'd love to be able to go through and have the partnership of medical practitioners, including family doctors. Right now, just because of the side effects of with terbinafine involving liver damage, even though doctors will recommend it, patients have some resistance to taking this medication. So doctors are recommending something that pretty much there is excellent consensus that just has low efficacy. It's safe, but it has low efficacy. And that's efinaconazole. We think that, oh yeah, please.
Yeah, so can we just want to ask a couple more questions?
Oh, yes.
In regards to your US launch, what's your strategy for launch there? Are you going to have distributors? Are you going to be looking for a partner?
We're already in talks with distributors in the US. So one distributor, and I think this would be the ideal profile for a distributor, is someone who's already selling to foot clinics. It's a different product, it's for a different indication. And since they already have a sales force deployed, they're looking for something else to be able to offer clinicians. So I think that's the kind of partner.
Yeah, are there already light-based solutions that are being distributed? And do you have to go, we have to do a head-to-head or toe-to-toe, sorry, I just made that up, trial against some of the other light-based technologies?
For onychomycosis, like for toenail fungus? There's one that is similar to ours. It's been approved in Australia. It's distributed in some places in the UK and Hong Kong. Because it's a bit clunky to use, we think it hasn't gotten a lot of traction for that reason. You have to go toe by toe. We treat the entire foot, so it hasn't got a lot of traction otherwise.
Okay, just another quick round. John, do you have a burning question? One more?
No, I'm good, thanks, Jennifer.
And Alex?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for this presentation, and we'll let you go.
Well, thank you very much. So thanks everyone. That was lovely. Thanks, Jennifer.